Well, thanks everybody for giving us the afternoon. I just have to put a quick public service announcement. That is that at 2:45 precisely, I turn into Cinderella and actually have to flee to get on a flight. So, one of you, if we're still going, or whatever reason we're over time, one of you will have to pick up the golden slipper and move from there. I'm the guy who wrote a column today complaining about to the moonism in Bitcoin. If you saw my column, keep throwing the tomatoes at me. But that, as amongst other things, is my involvement here. But we've got a great panel. A topic that I think can seem kind of nerdy, but actually is critical to the infrastructure of any financial institutions for that matter, but really important for Bitcoin because it really raises interesting questions about who has control over the assets. So custodianship is a really important part of the coming infrastructure. And this team is as good as any to be able to lay out what's going on in the space and why it matters to all of you. Ted, what I think I'll just do is just first, each of you, because you've got different models really, which I think is the interesting aspect of how you're approaching the custody question. Mm-hmm. So why don't you just introduce yourselves first, but in the process maybe identify, maybe something of the philosophical or business model aspect to what you're doing. So Ted, tell us a bit about Xapo.
Sure. So Xapo is a wallet and vault, and we serve both retail, individual consumer clients and institutions. And I head the institutional part of our business. Our philosophy is that we are going to control the private keys, that our business is security, and our job is to make sure that the private keys to your Bitcoin are secure. And then on top of that, we'll make it as easy as possible for you to access your Bitcoins and move them around and add people in your organization to the account, et cetera. But ultimately, we philosophically are not about distributing private keys. We don't want private keys touching the internet. We don't want to put the onus of their safeguarding on clients. That said, we are early Bitcoiners. Wences is I would call him a Bitcoin evangelist extraordinaire, and we respect deeply the models that other people have that do involve distributing private keys and involve owners of Bitcoin holding their own keys. We think that's essential for Bitcoin, and without that, Bitcoin doesn't have much meaning. So we are serving a certain segment of the market, both on the retail and institutional side, but we also believe there's a very important place for other models.
Without giving away the secret sauce, there's some pretty extreme lengths at times to which Xapo has gone to secure those keys, right? Can you give us a bit of insights into what you've done to really keep them secure?
Sure. So we've gotten some press. Xapo does some things well, some things not well. I think we are not very good marketers. You probably haven't seen our name on any signs around here. We're not in the press all that often. One thing we've gotten noted for is the fact that we store private keys in very physically secure, cryptographically secure, biometrically secure environments. So one of the places that we've actually revealed that we keep some of the private keys to our clients' Bitcoin is in a mountainside in Switzerland. It's a former military bunker built to withstand nuclear war or natural and man-made disasters. And there's a lot of thought that goes into where we keep the private keys. And Switzerland as a jurisdiction is very predictable and very secure, as are the other jurisdictions where we keep the private keys.
Mike, so you are the drivers of the multi-sig concept. So talk us a little bit about what BitGo is all about and what multi-sig means to you and the sort of the ideas behind that.
Sure. So BitGo is a security and scalability platform provider for Bitcoin. We power a number of popular exchanges with their hot wallets. We've been doing that since 2013. We pioneered multi-sig as a security model at the foundation. We cut our teeth on the Bitcoin side, where we handle today about 15% of global Bitcoin transactions. About $8 billion monthly flows through BitGo wallets. We've now expanded into 6 different coins: Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum, Ripple, Bitcoin Cash, Royal Mint Gold. And in the last year, it's really evolved as a business more towards the traditional finance institutions. This is asset managers, hedge funds, fund managers, private wealth management offices, and the like. Folks are looking for help from the technology side for how to secure the Bitcoins. We provide a non-custodial option ourselves, and through partnership, there's custodial options available. So you can go to Kingdom Trust, for instance, one of the few qualified custodians in the United States that can hold your Bitcoin. A number of funds have been moving there. We've been servicing business to business for our entire existence. So, a year and a half ago, it wasn't so sexy to be talking about, institutional custody. Today, it's all the rage, but we've been doing it for a while. Thousands of accounts are open, kind of in both custodial and non-custodial manners. And perhaps the most exciting that is happening is we're starting to see an evolution where people really start to use multi-sig, giving one key all the way down to the account holder. And that gets exciting because that's different than what we've ever done in traditional finance before. There's a danger with custodianship that we could end up with the same models that we've had in the banking industry outside of digital. And I think that's an opportunity lost. So some of those new concepts are starting to make it all the way through the educational process and will be delivered to market soon.
Yeah, I think that's one of the most exciting aspects of multi-sig is this idea that we can actually establish a new paradigm entirely, right? That the very notion of custody can become a shared concept and that there are huge protections in that. But what are you finding in terms of maybe it's institutional or retail interest, but do people want to have that key held themselves, that final key, or is there a desire really to stick with the traditional custodial structure where you guys or some other institution is actually looking after it?
It's definitely a mix. There's some people that adamantly want that key, and they won't take cold storage without it. And there's others that say, nope, I'm not good at that. I'm going to let somebody else do that. So if nothing else, we get choice that we've never had before. Even if you decide to elect for a system that's similar to the old model, that's fine. There's other options available. And if you're a fund that's kind of combining many accounts into one in an omnibus style, then maybe just handing it off to somebody else is the best approach, because usually that's corporate custody. You don't want a single individual at the corporation, holding all the access, et cetera. Personnel change, lots of policies and whatnot. On the other hand, if you're taking accounts for many individuals as an asset manager, and you're keeping them all segregated, then actually passing that key all the way through can be a real benefit.
Eric, where does Ledger come down in all this? Tell us a bit about what your model is all about.
So Ledger is well known for its hardware wallet, the Nano S and the Blue. And we are also providing with solutions for institutional investors or family offices. Ledger is not a custodian. What we do at Ledger is to provide with all the security infrastructure so our customers can manage themselves their keys, and we provide with all the secure hardware. The Ledger Vault, which is our solution, is providing with what we call governance, multi-signature, time locks, rate limiting, and the particularity of our technology is that since we are relying on secure hardware, we can have multi-signature for any kind of blockchain, even the blockchain which doesn't have multi-signature inside it. So we are a very good solution for all the cryptocurrencies that are in the top 100 or top 200. And so we have two types of customers. We have the customers such as enterprises, family offices, high net worth individuals who need self-custody. What they need, in fact, is security, governance, so they can have 2 of 3, 3 of 3 accounts where they manage themselves the solutions. Or we deal directly with custodians who want to build a solution for hedge funds who require this kind of solution.
So is it fair to say amongst these three models that yours is the one that, I suppose, adds the most control options to the individual, to the institution, so that there's this sort of self-control thing? In a way, we have a continuum here of different models, right? Is that where you'd place yourself?
Yeah, exactly. We provide really all the tools and infrastructure so our customers can control the keys. It's the same way than with the hardware wallets. If Ledger dies, it's a problem for us, but not a problem for our customers, because we do not bear any kind of fiduciary responsibility. We give the most flexibility and control to our customers by giving them all the tools which enable them to own their keys.
Okay. So given that these are the three models, I mean, this is really, we're looking at this emergence of the institutional business here. What are you guys seeing in terms of institutional interest across your three different business structures, and what are they looking for? What are you finding at this stage is the go-to idea amongst institutions, to the degree to which you're actually hearing from them?
Sure. I think the three of us could probably spend all day, every day on the phone now with institutions. I don't know that for a fact, but I'm pretty sure that's true for them. It's true for us. And that's great. Most of the people that we're talking to, they're looking for, and this is important. We need to be careful about making judgments about what the market at large wants based on what we have, and not get caught up in our own Bitcoin bubble. And if you ask the people that most of the people that I talk to every day, what do you want? What they want is exposure to a new asset class. They're not looking to deal with, and I say this generally, there are exceptions to this. They are not looking for new complicated technological solutions. They want exposure to Bitcoin, or they want exposure to Ethereum. And they want it as simply and as...
Kind of ironic though, right? Because they want exposure to the buzz that all those outside of the institutions are buying into it for, right? It's this bifurcated kind of relationship between the core value of the asset and the exposure to it.
I think that's right. So what we offer them, and it is different than the other people here and others that are in the market that are very good, is a traditional custodial relationship. We are completely focused on Bitcoin. We sort of fit in the role that they're used to from a regulatory sense, from sort of infrastructure sense and the like. And by the way, there's a lot of costs that come with being a custodian in terms of regulation and licensing and the like, but that is our model. Again, in supporting our model and believing that the vast majority of people still in the mainstream, both on the institutional side and retail side, don't want to carry around their private keys or deal with storing them or forgetting them, I'm not at all putting down those models. I think they're very important. And in fact, the future of finance probably has more to do with a lot of what these guys are doing than what our current model is. However, there will always be a massive market, I think, for traditional custodianship of Bitcoin, which is what we do.
Mm-hmm. Mikey, what are institutions saying they want from you?
Well, like Ted said, we're on the phone all the time talking to folks about this issue. So tremendous interest right now. As Ted said, I think correctly, people are looking for exposure into the digital assets. That's true. They're looking to bring digital assets to their existing markets and customers. And they're finding a mismatch between their mental model of how the old system works and how digital works. And they've been cursorily aware of a lot of this for a long time, but it's not until you actually try to put together the technical, the legal, the risk, whatever else is in your organization, that you kind of figure out all of what goes into it. So a lot of this is about providing technology they can trust. I mean, safety of money, of course, is absolutely number one. Then they're looking for what other layers of protections do they have that they can relate to. So questions come up around, how many institutions are involved? Which institution provides which service? Are we talking about a vertically integrated exchange plus custody management system? Yeah. Are we talking about divorced systems where there's separate folks? And another area they look for is around insurance. So they're used to assets that they can insure and that they've got protections about, and they're looking for custodial options that meet their models, take out the risk, has backup.
So when they're looking at those different institutions that will be part of a multi-sig environment, are they framing this in the context of traditional custodial relationships? Are they looking, for example, to have a State Street or another kind of traditional custodian play a role in key management, or are they looking to more innovative new solutions to that?
Honestly, I've seen all aspects asked for. So some people are looking for, yes, just give me a custodian. I know what custodians do. They're going to take care of the keys. I want them to be insured and have backups and be big and have large cap tables. They'll be happy that way. Mm-hmm. There's other folks that are like, wait a minute, we can do a little better. One of the challenges, I think, for the other businesses is that while we can do better models with the digital side, the fiat side still lags behind. So no matter what greatness you come up with on the pure digital side, if you're dealing with a digital and fiat world, you've still got the baggage of the old model.
Right.
So they're kind of like, well, you know, I have to do both. That doesn't sound great. Why not just do one? Anyway, these things are getting sorted out. I think you walk and then you run later. Walking will probably include making the models as similar to what they've known in the past, and then running will be started to.
I want to pick up on that sort of like, you know, failure of the whole fiat world, because all this buzz about how, you know, insecure and risky Bitcoin is, when in reality there's so many more, at least within this context, security features that you can build into a digital environment that you really can't in that traditional fiat world. But Ledger is, you know, more radical, and I would suggest from the point of view of an institution. Are there institutions, what type of institutions are interested in the hardware solution?
Well, there are billions of dollars of value who wants to go on the cryptocurrency markets, and the only thing which is preventing them to go all in on that is the lack of key management solution, security, custodianship. So we have been under intense pressure from potential customers, institutions, to build solutions who are going to provide them with this opportunity. Ledger has been used a lot by these financial institutions with the hardware wallets. But obviously it's not enough, because the management of the keys, the governance is missing. And today, the infrastructure that we need to build is extremely critical to allow all these investments to go through. So today, as I said, we really have two tracks. There is the self-custody customers who do not require all the legal aspects of insurance and regulation. And this is already a very big market, because even some enterprises, they have some Bitcoins or of crypto, and they cannot have only one wallet with one person accessing, like only the CFO has access. They want to have all the team with 2 or 3. So on that, they want to have some hardware solution, because then the device can also do the authentication of the persons. And regarding the custodian solutions, for a while, we have, people have asked if Ledger could become a custodian. But we took the decision not to go into this area, because it is extremely capital intensive, and we have customers worldwide. We sell in 165 countries, and I think we can bring more values by partnering with custodians in different geographies than becoming ourselves a custodian. So for us, it's more about being very horizontal and providing low-level infrastructure and let our customers become the custodians.
Right, it seems there's a common theme actually emerging between what all three of you are saying here. And it does seem to me, though, that what we run up against, at least for now, is something that Mike was alluding to, and you're kind of merging these two very different worlds. You know, and in some respects, it is trying to jam, I think, a square peg into a round hole, right? There's ideas around custody and structure and ownership which aren't really, to some extent, antithetical to the be your own bank idea of Bitcoin, at least, right? Which is just what it is, and I think we need to just acknowledge that. But what challenges does that pose? These two competing models, you know, infrastructure, institutional structures, and cultures, actually.
Yeah. Two quick points on that. I think a hosted solution, which generally refers to a solution like Xapo or Coinbase, in which the entity itself is keeping the private keys and providing hosted software, wallets, and the like for clients, is essential for the first phase of what's going on here, because it is absolutely true that there's some conflicting philosophical structure there with what Bitcoin is supposed to be when you're doing something hosted. But we will never get to billions of users of Bitcoin if we make them all hold their own private keys. It just won't happen. I was at a subcommittee on terrorism, illicit financing, blah, 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 with someone who was demonstrating a non-hosted wallet, and he said, this is the future of finance. And he took people through it. He's writing down a 36-digit private key, backup key, and he holds up this piece of paper. He's like, this is a backup key, and all these like 60-year-old senators are going, this is the future of finance? What the hell? And so, you know, we need these solutions to be as user-friendly as possible to break through into the mainstream. But that said, it's also like what Mike said. I mean, we need to walk before we run. I'm on the phone with a lot of institutions that want something that we just don't have. And actually, Mike probably does, and Ledger probably does, and I send them that way all the time. But there's also things that people want that just none of us have yet, you know, and that can probably be built over time. But we're in the very early stages of building this infrastructure still.
So it's kind of like a bridging strategy in a way. Any thoughts from you two on this?
Yeah, well, we discredited fiat a little bit for being kind of the old model, but it also does fill the gaps, and maybe fiat's the wrong word, but the old models, it fills the gaps in some things which we haven't really done right yet in the digital space. One that comes to mind is beneficiaries. So, I mean, especially as Bitcoin's hitting 10,000, I mean, a lot of wealth is out there. And I know there's a lot of folks, most people that I talk to, don't really have a good continuity plan for should they go. And when we talk about holding your own keys, these issues are orders of magnitude more difficult. When you talk about using a custodian, it's actually really straightforward. So I think part of the reason why the walking step does likely involve a custodian that looks like a lot like yesteryear's custodian is because there still are some things we have yet to figure out. Now we can get there, but the industry is immature. The number of players in the space is not very many. We haven't hit a large percentage of the world yet. So there's a lot of infrastructure to be laid.
Okay. So we heard this morning, I think it was Nolan who mentioned it, you know, Coinbase, the first unicorn in the crypto space, made a fairly big announcement a few weeks back. You know, this new sort of promise of custodial services to institutions, you know, a $10 million minimum, a fairly high basis point entry fee of $100,000, but sort of with it this kind of absolute kind of formal guarantee structure. I suppose, whether you want to talk about that and them as a competitor themselves, but rather, do you see an arms race, a kind of a sort of a building up of competition around new deals and promises around this, as this sort of flood of institutional interest gets into it?
You're looking at me, but I think it's his turn to
answer. Let's see what Eric says. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a very, very big market. And the fact that Coinbase is going into this market is a little bit validating everything. They are staking their reputations, taking everything that they have built to become one of the first crypto custodian. They have also put the bar very high in terms of pricing, which is very good because I think it would be a shame just to start to kill the market by going with very low prices, because there is a lot of research and developments, lots of things that we need to build, and so it's normal that these exotic assets are more in line with 100 bips at the moment. But I think it's showing that we are moving forward to a professionalization of this market. And in any case, regarding competition, Coinbase will always, I guess, be good in the US and with a small selection of cryptocurrencies. There is all the long tail of cryptos that Coinbase will never touch, like Monero, Zcash, which are also quite a favorite from hedge funds because they want to have a big basket of investments. So whatever happens, I think there is the place for different approaches, and we will be able to all work on this market by providing our own approach to the security and custodian solutions.
Now, I mean, this industry, I would just say largely because it's nascent, it's a new technology, it's just hasn't had the regulatory structure that others have, has been filled with stories of hacks and losses and everything else, right? We don't need to name them all. They keep still coming at us. Do you worry at all about what might happen if one player in this space, I'm not suggesting any of you three are going to be it, but like the institutional money comes in, there's this big claim, we're going to protect them, and then some sort of Mt. Goxie type thing happens. I mean, how secure can we feel now at this stage of the development that the technology is secure enough that institutions are going to, you know, happily wade into it?
I think they can feel very, very secure with people that have been in it a while and people that take it very seriously. However, I think it's also one of the nice things about the industry that more and more people are coming in as potential options for custodianship or security on private keys, because you don't want all the assets of the industry focused on one or two major players. You just don't want that. So diversity is good, more players are good. Very different mentality than at least I had back in 2014, where everybody was a competitor. No, Coinbase announced this, and Mike and BitGo are doing that. And we don't feel that way anymore. The more people that come into this industry right now, the better.
With security, you know, to bring it to the institutional grade, you have to design it in from the ground up, right? And you know, the early players, you mentioned Mt. Gox or whatever, I mean, these guys didn't build it in from the beginning. So it's a different era now than it was before. For those that don't know, Mt. Gox stands for Magic the Gathering Online Exchange, and that gives you a little bit of an insight as to where their security bar may have been when they founded that.
Yeah,
I think it's a very different world.
Yeah.
In terms of the competitive around, you know, all the players here, the great news is that this is a rapidly growing market, and this tidal wave is going to carry all the boats. There's lots of space.
Yeah. So Ted and Mike and I were talking about this a couple of days ago. You know, this question could actually fill up the whole panel, but we're going to end it on the last one. That is, with the 3 minutes or so that we have left. What is the regulatory outlook here? And I find this a more interesting question than the regulation question normally is, because I feel like the very idea of custody, as it's conceived in the traditional sense, is actually really quite different in the crypto world, especially with multi-sig. Because, you know, who is the custodian when neither one of two parties can actually execute on that? And so I'm wondering, you know, what you see is, just quickly, the challenges that we face in terms of regulation. Is there some quick way you could sum up where you think it's going to go? Maybe all of you have a crack. Maybe Eric, if you want to weigh in quickly first.
Well, it's a very complex question because it's global. So there is the US, Asia, Europe. And that's why we didn't want to put one foot into this in this area. The good news is that it starts to exist. The regulation is taking form. So I guess now it's a matter of having the right teams with the right mind who will be able to build all the right tools in accordance to the regulation. So I think it's just a question of months before we have all the right solutions. And especially in the US, I think the regulation has been quite positive because they have solutions. And we will see how it goes in other geographies, but when there is money, there is solutions. So everyone wants to go into crypto, so there will be solutions.
Mike, do you see US regulators getting their heads around your model and the concept? Are they starting to think about how to shape their thinking and whether they need to change regulations or not to match it?
Well, they certainly are trying. We've met with a number of regulators, you know, everywhere from some of the just Department of Business Oversight in California, senators, folks in Washington. From a security model, they like it, they get it. From a, you know, enabling new ways of dealing with money, they like that part too. They're scared about one angle, which is if you take the keys and you distribute it all across different people, and you can't say who has custody. They like that idea of who can you go.
They like to be able to find where the buck stops, right?
Yeah, that's going to be a challenge. There's actually no real legal definition today. We don't know exactly what it means to have custody in a multi-sig environment. Jerry Brito at Coin Center has done a great job, I think, advocating a model. He says basically, if you've got the ability to unilaterally make or break a transaction, that's custody, that's control. I like that model. It does not answer the question that I just mentioned, where if you split the keys across 3 different parties. Interestingly, splitting the keys across 3 or more different parties is probably the most interesting technological change we can get to. It's going to open up a lot of doors. Yeah. So, yeah, it needs to be defined, but I think the regulators want this to work, actually. I think they just want to see safety of money. I want safety of money. I think probably most people in this room want safety of money. So I think it's going to work out.
So, Ted, since I don't want to have to become Cinderella, I'm going to accept the fact that you are nodding your head in agreement with Mike. So you would say exactly the same thing. And on that note, I'm going to call the panel shut. So thanks, everybody. Give a round of applause to this panel. Enjoy the rest of it.